Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. As subscribers to my channel will know, I play a lot of tabletop skirmish games, and I also play Dungeons & Dragons, and that means I am always on the lookout for new elements of terrain. In particular, I am always looking for interesting new things that I can throw on the table for games of Rangers of Shadowdeep, and as a forthcoming playthrough for that game will require venturing inside a building where there will be crates and barrels and other things like that, I thought it was worth picking up one of these Dungeon Debris terrain crates from Mantic Games. I already have a selection of dungeon furniture made by Mantic Games because I have the board game Dungeon Saga, which includes doors, wardrobes, bookcases, tables, and a whole range of other really interesting things that you can use to decorate a dungeon. And while many of those elements add some nice flavour to the setting, they aren't always the kind of things that you can use for hiding behind, creating strategic situations. And I think that's something that this Dungeon Debris kit does, because it provides you with barricades, barrels and crates, and other interesting things that can interrupt movement, line of sight, provide cover for your heroes, and make combats more interesting. So this terrain crate in particular, I think I paid £25 for this, and that included delivery, and it includes 24 pieces, and that's actually 12 unique pieces, and you get 2 of each. In this video, we're going to open the crate, we're going to take a look at exactly what you get, and then I'm going to get them painted up as quickly as possible. Inside the box, you get 2 of these grip seal bags, and each grip seal bag contains 12 elements, and the contents of each bag are identical, so you get 24 pieces total. They're all cast in this brown plastic, and anybody who owns Dungeon Saga or who has purchased any of the terrain crates from Mantic Games will pretty much know what to expect from this. Let's start by taking a look at the biggest terrain element in the set. That is this pile of crates. These crates are not separate, it is a single element. And I should mention that these are scaled to 28mm. These are going to work for Dungeon Saga, obviously, Kings of War, any of the Mantic games. They're going to fit in with Dungeons & Dragons, and a wide range of tabletop games. They are very nicely detailed, and for a box that says it includes Dungeon Debris, you pretty much get what it says on the tin. This is a nice piece of blocking terrain. It's going to add character to a warehouse or a storage room, and it's also going to provide a way to shelter your heroes or indeed your enemies from prying eyes. You also get this set of barrels. As with the crates, these barrels are all attached together to create a single element. That's actually fine by me because there were some individual barrels in the Dungeon Saga set, which, of course, I keep calling it the Dungeon Saga set, but the furniture from Dungeon Saga is actually also available in a terrain crate, which I believe is called Dungeon Essentials. But this is something that's going to provide a more substantial piece. It's a quicker way to build a busy environment that looks full of stuff, and it actually has a barrel with no top on it. Next up, we have this pile of logs. This is actually a much larger element than I was expecting. When I saw the picture, I was expecting it to be a little pile of firewood to go next to the fireplace, but it's actually more substantial than that. It is something that could impede movement. It may provide a small amount of cover if someone wanted to throw themselves into the dirt. It's not really the most exciting element you're going to see in your dungeon, but it adds some nice detail, and of course you could use this in an outside environment, in a hero's camp, at a logger's site or something. Next, we have something really useful. We have 2 different types of makeshift barriers created from crates, barrels, and broken doors. And of course, because there are 2 different designs of this, you get 2 more in the other bag, so you get 4 barricades total, which is really useful. It's always good to have some makeshift fortifications for when those pesky heroes come a-knocking. So this one is actually made from a part of a table, and that table design matches the table design from Dungeon Saga or Dungeon Essentials. And then we have this one, which is made from part of a door with a crate and a barrel and a piece of a treasure chest there. And again, all of these elements tie in thematically with elements from the Dungeon Essentials set. It's all going to look like it's from the same place when you put it all together. And you know, really nicely detailed, but also something that you can paint really, really quickly. This is going to be something where you can just chuck some brown paint on it, chuck some lead belcher on it, chuck a wash on it, and go. This dice rolls funny. It is, of course, not a dice, it is an individual crate. It has one smooth surface, which is the bottom, and again, nice detailing. It's a decent size. Having a couple of loose crates that you can chuck around those larger elements that have several crates stuck together is going to be useful. And then we have two elements which are proper debris. This is just piles of rubble. We've got some stonework and a little bit of a broken pillar. These are elements that you can use to signify difficult terrain, as well as something that's going to provide a little bit of cover. But mainly I think this is going to be something to impede the movement of your characters. So that's all your good stuff, that's your substantial stuff. The other four items are a little bit disappointing really, in as much as they feel a little bit like they are padding out the number of contents in the box. As I mentioned before, there are 24 pieces total in this box, but 8 of them are incredibly small. You are getting 4 of these skulls, and 2 of these rat swarms, and then 2 of these individual rats. I am actually not going to be using those as dungeon dressing at all. I am going to be putting those in my bits box, and they will turn up on bases of different heroes at some point. So really, I would say this set contains 16 pieces of dungeon dressing and then 8 scenic elements for adding detail to bases. That's how I'm looking at it anyway. I would of course rather have seen one more large element than these smaller ones, but I can always use extra bits. And there we have it, that is a complete set, and everything you can see here you get 2 of in the box. And even with so many of the items being these smaller elements, I think that's probably a decent amount of extra scatter terrain for the £25 I paid. Of course, what I need to do now is get some paint on this stuff. As much as I like having lots of terrain, I find it pretty boring to paint, so we're going to do this as quickly as possible. I've started by spraying everything with Chaos Black, and then everything that is brown is going to get 2 coats of Army Painter Leather Brown. I'm using Army Painter Leather Brown because Army Painter is cheaper than using Citadel paints, and because I used it before when I was painting my Dungeon Saga terrain, and I want this stuff to match up. If you've got a brown primer, you could spray everything with that instead of using Chaos Black first, or if you've got a paint spray gun, this is a perfect opportunity to get the paint spray gun out and get everything done really, really quickly. But I have to resort to applying 2 coats with a brush. And I have to stress we're doing a really quick paint job here. We want this stuff on the table as soon as possible, and we're painting crates and barrels. They're not particularly exciting at the best of times. If you want to lavish loads of details on them, you can, but I personally don't see the point. With all the leather brown applied, I'm switching to oak brown, and this is just going to go on the doors, on the barricades that make use of broken doors. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because when I painted up Dungeon Saga, I used oak brown on the doors, and I want these doors to match. I want everything to feel like it has come from the same dungeon. So we will apply 2 coats of oak brown to these doors. And of course, if you want to, you can use lots of different browns to get lots of different tonal shades, but I'm not doing that here. We're then going to switch to lead belcher, and we are going to put lead belcher on some of the bands on the barrels. You don't need to put it on all of them. And we're also going to put it on the locks and hinges on the doors and the banding on the tables, anywhere where there are small metal elements. You can do it on all of the banding on the barrels if you want, but I'm doing a mixture just for a little bit of variation between them. And also, of course, because I'm a lazy painter. And then of course we are going to switch to Agrax Earthshade, and we are going to coat all of these terrain elements with Agrax Earthshade, making sure we get into all of the recesses. It's going to make all the details pop, it's going to provide the shading. And really, once you've got this Agrax Earthshade on, you can leave it at that really. You have tabletop ready terrain elements. But even though we are doing a really quick job on these, we are going to go just one stage further. We're switching to Monster Brown and we're going to do a heavy dry brush. This is just going to brighten everything up a little bit, help define those shadows and recesses even more, and make everything look pretty nice without a lot of effort. And then I'm going back to Oak Brown, and with this I'm just going to layer it onto the oak doors, just to revive those and just to remove any streakiness where the Agrax Earthshade has dried on a flat surface. Again, this is exactly how I painted the doors in my Dungeon Saga set, so everything should look like it matches up on the tabletop when I use it together. And that finishes the brown stuff, so we're going to move on to the little piles of rubble. We're going to give everything 2 coats of Mechanicus Standard Grey. If you have a grey primer, you can use that instead of spraying with Chaos Black and then using the Mechanicus Standard Grey. It will make your life a whole lot easier, but I don't have any grey primer at the moment. Once that is completely dry, I'm going to give everything a coat of Nuln Oil. As with the Agrax Earthshade on the wooden elements, this is just going to bring out all of those details. And then I want to do a really high contrast dry brush finish, so I'm using Ulthuan Grey. This is exactly how I have painted stone walls on previous videos, and I like having these really bright edges on my stonework. But with this dry brush, that's everything done. I'm not going to do anything else. Of course, you can go a lot further with all of these terrain elements. You can bring out all of the little details. You can spend a lot of time and effort on them and make them look much better than I have, but there we go, that's everything on the table, and I'm really quite happy with all of that. I think that's going to add a lot of character and interest to my battlefields, and for a very quick paint job, I think that is more than adequate. But that brings this video to an end. Overall, I think this Dungeon Debris Terrain Crate is really good. It paints up well and really quickly, and it does exactly what I want it to do. And that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you've really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.